Hey guys, so I filmed earlier today, and you guys know this because I told you I was going for a walk and that I was going to go film on my walk. And I had planned to go to a specific location and film there, but there was like construction and stuff, so instead of just walked down the road and vlogged as I was walking, which was kind of awkward because it's the first time I've ever done that, but it worked out fine. I went to go edit it just now and realized that all of my footage sounds like this. So I'm not going to try that, and obviously I can't use that. I'm extremely disappointed, to be honest, and I don't remember all of what I had said, so I'm going to try and reiterate it to the best of my ability and hope I don't miss anything. No promises. Katie, you talked about cellular memory, which I think is interesting, but I don't know anything about it, so I can't actually expand on that topic. And you also talked about consciousness, which is one of two things, the other being life, which James tried to touch on, that I was taught in grade 11 and 12 biology were like the two biggest questions that you basically can't answer at this point in time. What is consciousness and what is life are the very, very difficult questions to answer, at least. So I'm not going to try to do that because I don't think I can bring anything else to the table. James talked about drunken people a little bit in his video, which I will touch on in a second, and then Spencer basically just talks about explaining things and how it is difficult to explain things sometimes, and sometimes it's just not possible to explain things like emotions or rationalizing your actions and things like that, and I'll get to that in a second as well. But I want to start with the drunken people because I lived a fairly sheltered life. I still do live a fairly sheltered life. It's just the way I was raised. So I've been around drunk people before, and I know I have looking back, but back when I was around them, I didn't think that I was around drunk people. I thought that they were just acting weird, or I just didn't notice at all. And it's just strange that now I know that they've been drinking, my perspective has sort of changed on those situations and on those memories. It's just weird that my perspective has changed over time. It's not like I actively searched out for memories that have drunk people in them. It's just that I remember something and went, that person was drunk, whereas a few years ago I would have went, that person was acting kind of funny, or nothing is wrong with this situation at all. And it's just a weird change in perspective that I acquired over the past few years of seeing people actually drink and what happens as a consequence of that. And it's just a strange thing that also is something that I thought of yesterday when I put up my video on my main channel, which basically, if you haven't seen it, is a video about home and the idea of home and how it's constantly changing and is a very fluid concept. And a lot of people were telling me about their own experiences with the concept of home, and a few people touched on the fact that when home changes, it's sort of not an instant thing. It happens over a period of time, and they don't really realize when it happens. And I totally understand that because it's just recently, within the past few weeks, that I've actually come to call this my home, as opposed to just the house that I'm living in. I actually was calling home my old house for a little bit, and it's just slowly over time I've now called this home, and it's just this weird change in perspective, and I find that really interesting. And then I realized we've already talked about perspective on this channel in a different fashion, but we did talk about perspective from people to people, as opposed to changing your own perspective as time goes on. And it just got me thinking about how everything is really connected, because I mean, talking about perspective now, even though we were talking about perspective like 2 weeks ago, it is just very strange that I took drunken people and I was able to connect that to a conversation that we were having a while ago. And it's just not something that I would have thought I would have been able to connect, but it was, and it's just really cool to me. And that also connects to the idea of thought processes and all that stuff that we were talking about last week as well. And it's just, it seems like we've changed topics, but we sort of haven't, because I can still relate what we're talking to what we were talking to before. So everything is sort of connected, and that got me to thinking about the picture that James showed us about the brain cell looks like the universe, and how everything big and small is really connected. And I found that really, really interesting. And as much as I totally want to play devil's advocate, as Spencer said, it is still interesting whether or not you believe there's any tie between those. It is still really cool to think about. Hi, we're over here now. So I am editing the footage that I now have that I can actually use. I realized when I started to talk about what Spencer was talking about yesterday, I actually started talking about nothing, basically, and I added absolutely nothing to the conversation. I basically just summarized what he said, which is not something that we need in this video, because it's already long enough, isn't it? So I'm going to leave that there, and I find what Spencer said interesting, but I don't have anything to add to it, at least not right now. I might have in the original footage. Sorry about that again, and Katie, I will see you tomorrow talking about something that I may or may not have led you to think about. Probably not at this rate.